Hey, good morning, everybody. Our guest this morning is the Honorable Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy. Dr. Cassidy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ted. How are you, buddy?
Doing great. Good to have you with us this morning. Okay, you don't want to let the holiday start. You want to keep the Senate in session. Why?
Yeah, look at the Democrats have done so much Chuck Schumer has done so much to block President Trump's appointees that at the rate we're going, it will be 9 years before we finish getting all of Trump's appointees into the places they need to be to serve our government, to serve our people. Now, we can't wait 9 years. He has another election in 2.5. If Schumer insists upon slowing things down, let's just stay in session, make it happen.
Can you do that?
Yeah. It's going to be up to Mitch McConnell. Well, frankly, it's up to Chuck Schumer. If Chuck Schumer decides that he's going to actually allow the Senate to work as opposed to put a block on everything, then we can keep the schedule as it is. On the other hand, I'd rather be back in Louisiana than here. On the other hand, if Schumer insists upon slowing everything down, then we should go ahead and stay in session.
So I'm confused. The Republicans have the Senate, they have the House, they have the presidency. How does Schumer have this kind of power?
So the minority party, whatever that party is, can insist upon 30 hours of debate for everybody, every nomination being considered. So Terry Doty is a federal judge recently confirmed in Monroe, northeast Louisiana, obviously. And so totally uncontroversial, very well qualified, great guy, everybody loved him. Democrats insisted upon 30 hours of debate. Now, during that time, I don't think a single word was said about Terry Doty. Maybe I said something just to praise him. But in 30 hours, which could have been used to consider legislation or other appointees, we did nothing but sit there and talk about everything but Terry Doty. So that 30 hours, though, took up time that could have been used for other business. Heck, if you want 30 hours of debate on everybody, let's just stay in until as long as we need to get everybody done.
If the Democrats don't like the immigration policy that this country has, why don't they adopt the immigration policies that Mexico has?
Yeah, they wouldn't want to do that, I can tell you that. For the listeners who don't know, Mexico is very tough on illegal immigration. Will not allow you in and will kick you back out. Clearly they want a different country than what Americans want. Most Americans want rule of law. If you can come here, we'd love to have you, but come here legally. The president actually made a great compromise. He said for the kids who came here at an early age, brought by their parents, didn't know anything about it, and they've grown up here, he would allow them to stay. Give them a pathway to citizenship. But he wants the border secured so that this stops. Now, I think that's actually a great compromise. Democrats don't want that either. And when I say Democrats, of course, I don't mean folks in Louisiana. I mean folks like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi.
You came up with a plan to pay for the wall.
Yeah. So as of now, drug cartels move about $110 billion, billion with the B, $1 billion from the United States to Mexico every year. Sell drugs here, bring the money down south. If we could confiscate that, a couple things. You put a big crimp in their business plan. You keep them from being able to finance the drug trade that they do. But we could keep some of that money and help secure our border. It wouldn't be the Mexican government paying for the wall. It would be the Mexican cartels. And that's actually a better way to do it.
So how could the Democrats possibly be against confiscating illegal drug money?
You know, I don't know if they would be against, well, put it this way. They would love to confiscate the money. They're not going to want to use it to secure the border. Even when Trump offered his compromise, that gave them everything and more they wanted for the kids who had come here, brought here by their parents. They don't want it because otherwise they'd have to build a wall. And they don't want to build a wall. Period. End of story. Even though previously they have voted to build a wall. That's become Trump's signature deal. They don't want to give Trump a win, and so they're going to do whatever they can to keep Trump from having a win.
In the past, in Louisiana, in my opinion, we've had some extremely ineffective governors. I don't think any of them rise to the ineffectiveness of the present governor, John Bell Edwards. You're a doctor. You've had a long professional medical career. When have you ever seen anyone kicked out of a nursing home because they couldn't pay?
They're not going to kick anybody out of a nursing home. They're just not. That's just a scare tactic to get people to support things that otherwise they don't want to support.
Is that the lowest we've reached in this state, trying to terrify senior citizens?
Well, I can tell you that if you just look at the tax code here, and this is available from different places, Tax Foundation, etc. Louisiana gets more tax dollars per capita, state and local tax dollars per capita, than Florida, Georgia, or Texas. Now, we're getting more tax dollars per citizen than they, and they're building their interstates, upgrading their universities, providing these essential services, including nursing home for the elderly. And somehow we can't do it. So we've got some problems in our state. It's going to take tough decisions, but one of them is not that we're not taxed enough. We're clearly taxed enough.
No, I think it's going to take another governor. Okay, let's move along. You met with President Trump last week at the White House to discuss prescription drug prices. Any luck?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're doing. For example, one thing that we've been working on in my office that he's also embracing is that to eliminate so-called gag clauses. So I forget if it's 60 or if it's 80% of the time, but when a patient goes to the pharmacy, he or she would pay less for their prescription if they just paid cash instead of letting their insurance pay for it and pay their deductible. So the prescription may cost you $25, but your deductible may be $35 or $40, but the pharmacist is not allowed to tell you. If he tells you, then he loses his contract with the drug insurance company. The middleman, if you will, tells him, don't act in the patient's best interest. If you do, we're going to cut you off. That's wrong. The president knows it's wrong. He also talked about it. We've got some legislation we're trying to get passed to address it. We're trying to make health care affordable again. One way to do it is to make the prescriptions more affordable.
How close do you think you are to completing this?
Oh, that particular piece of legislation, we're very close. It ain't over till it's over. But on the other hand, there's a lot of support for it. Why wouldn't there be? And we think we're going to get that one through.
I'm not sure I totally understand this. So John Doe sitting out there has no insurance. He goes to the pharmacist. The pharmacist gives him a discount?
No. So the medicine may only cost you $25 if you pay cash.
Okay.
Say you're getting a diuretic. And you could pay $25 for a 3-month prescription or for a 1-month prescription. Now your deductible or your copay for your insurance is $35. So you just say, well, I'll put it on my insurance, and you pay $35. You could have paid cash and got it for $10 cheaper.
Wow.
Now, multiple medications over the course of a year, that adds up.
Sure.
But the pharmacist is not allowed to tell you that, or else he'll lose his contract with the company.
It's amazing. Health care, getting rid of Obamacare, is that dead?
First, we got rid of the individual mandate. And for many people, that's what they most, the federal government telling you if you don't buy insurance, you're penalized. We got rid of that. And so in that sense, we got rid of a major portion of Obamacare. But everything that Obamacare did to increase costs to the patients, we're working on. Again, I'm trying to make health care affordable again. And so all these little mechanisms, for example, going back to drugs, under the Obamacare legislation, Obamacare increased drug costs for some in order to subsidize health insurance for others. Well, it turns out people can't afford their drugs now. So we're trying to, the president talked about doing away with the Obamacare provisions that increased drug costs for some people. So we are continuing to chip away at everything that makes health care more expensive. We're trying to make health care affordable again.
Our guest this morning, U.S. Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy, Louisiana Extended Care, 4th floor, Natchitoches Regional Hospital. Boy, do they have great service waiting on you. When you stay in the hospital, as long as you're allowed to stay through Medicare, through your insurance, you're still too sick to go home, too sick for nursing home, Louisiana Extended Care, 4th floor. Stay there as long as you need. Average stays around 26 days. More information, 318-354-2044, Louisiana Extended Care. Senator Bill Cassidy is our guest this morning. You praised the White House for $15 billion in federal spending in the omnibus bill. Explain that to me.
Well, they want to cut it out. So they, I didn't vote for the spending bill because I thought they gave us less than a day to look at it. We're going to 2,000 pages, spending as much money as we spent. The President Trump said he was going to sign it, but he didn't like it because he just thought it spent too much money as well. So they want to go back and cut out about $15 billion of the money, and do it kind of surgical, not just across the board. Okay, let's cut the VA, let's cut the military, let's cut Fort Polk, for example, but rather to do it in a way which we don't need this program and we don't need that program, and I support that approach.
I was listening to a congressman on talk radio yesterday, and he was advocating taking 1 cent out of every dollar in savings, and within a few years would balance the budget. That sounds pretty reasonable to me.
No, it's actually, I know the legislation, it's not thought of well. What he would do is say, okay, military, we're going to take away not only the money, a little bit of your money this year, but you don't get any inflation cost next year. And you don't get any inflation cost the year after, and then the year after, and the year after. So, again, if you look at Fort Polk, every year their expenses go up a little bit because they're investing in new training facilities. They're trying to upgrade things. They have more troops coming through. So if you just look at the rate of growth of the military, if it's not growing by 3% per year, they're behind again just because of inflation. So it's not just the 1% they're taking. It actually ends up being about 20% over the course of 5 years. So it sounds great, but I think he's using it more to raise money than he is to address our country's fiscal problems.
You're fighting the battle whereas the Postal Service is subsidizing international postal shipments. First off, I had no idea this was happening. Second, why has it ever happened?
Well, there's a treaty, a UN treaty that says, okay, if you're shipping something from Shanghai, China to the United States, it's cheaper than if you are mailing it from Alexandria in the United States. So Shanghai to, say, Boston is cheaper than Alexandria, Louisiana to Boston. And there's a UN treaty that established this. We signed on to the treaty. So we somehow give subsidized rates to so-called developing countries. China is considered a developing country. And so we subsidize their businesses, taking away our businesses' business. That's a bad thing.
Well, I guess my initial reaction would be, how could anybody in Congress be against what you're trying to do?
I don't think they are. We have the legislation that's trying to address it. It does involve a UN treaty, so we've got to get the State Department involved as well. We think it may cost the federal taxpayer about $28 billion over 10 years. That's a lot of money, and so we're working through the hoops. We hope we can get this done sooner, not later, but we think we'll eventually get it done.
Talking about the Postal Service, I mean, it's a antiquated business to be in. They're losing billions of dollars every year. Postal needs to get rid of a lot of post offices in extremely small locations that provide home delivery. They need to get rid of Saturday mail delivery. They can't do this because Congress will not allow them to do that. Your thoughts?
No, it's Congress. They got some pretty rich union contracts. For example, if you're a postal employee, you have the best health care insurance of anybody, better than other government employees. I'm on Obamacare, but, just take your Customs, Border, and Patrol agent. The Postal Service has a much better contract, significantly better contract than he or she has. So there's a lot of stuff in there that they can mechanize, they don't, and that's all part of their union contracts.
So what's going to happen? I mean, the Postal Service cannot continue letting us bail them out forever, can they?
I agree with that, and some of the stuff you listed needs to be done. And again, they need to redo their cost structure. But they also, in fairness, if they're required by a treaty to bring in something cheaper from China than they could ship it across the United States, and they're losing money off of it, well, we need to fix that too. That's on the revenue side, and that's something that is just working against the interests of our country in a lot of different ways.
And in a lot of cases, the Postal Service has made agreements with different companies like Amazon, whereas they're almost losing money shipping their products, whereas people like you and I pay a big price for it.
Yeah, see, I don't know the details of that. I don't know if they're losing money on Amazon. I assume that they're shipping so much for Amazon that they're making money on volume. I know the president's kind of mad at Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon, and he has said that in the past. But it's hard for me to think that they signed a contract in which they're actually losing money. If they did, then they're really in trouble. If they're signing some contract for as much as Amazon ships.
Well, you look at a lot of the things that the Postal Service ships. In bulk mail, they ship it for almost nothing, yet it's twice the size of first-class mail. I mean, they haven't proven to be real smart operators.
Well, they're making a lot of money off of first-class mail. But the problem is, of course, who mails... Now, I don't just mail that much anymore, just because email is cheaper and first-class mail is so expensive. So, 4 pieces of mail is going to cost you over $2. So it's kind of, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot by not understanding they can price themselves out.
Our guest this morning, the Honorable U.S. Senator serving Louisiana, Dr. Bill Cassidy. Dr. Bill Cassidy, our guest this morning. Dr. Cassidy, you're working on legislation to honor New Orleans Saints star and ALS champion Steve Gleason. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Steve Gleason, everybody remembers, he's the guy that blocked the punt against Atlanta the first game back after the Superdome was reopened. There's a statue of him in front of the Superdome. A great football hero. But he developed ALS. Now he's confined to a wheelchair. He can't talk. You walk in, you think, you know the story, you're going to feel sorry for him, feel pity. Instead, you walk out fired up. The guy has just, his motto is no white flag. And so what he's done is he's worked with Microsoft to come up with hardware and software. It allows him to look at a word and to blink. The camera picks up his blink, and it will say that word spoken. It's pretty cool. So Congress, in the past, worked on legislation with somebody with Lou Gehrig's disease. They have access to this hardware and software. Now we're trying to get him a Congressional Gold Medal. He's been such an advocate for those with disabilities, those with ALS. We just want to honor him, and we're doing good. We think we're going to get there. But just a way to honor a great American who took a terrible disease, and he's done something incredibly positive with his life.
Okay, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of a special prosecutor. Is this ever going to end?
I hope so. At some point, you got to wrap it up. There's a judge down in Virginia losing patience with Bob Mueller. Listen, you're going into areas you are not mandated to go into. But it gives you permission to do so. Wrap it up. And I think when federal judges are losing patience with you, it indicates that you're going way beyond where you're supposed to. I just think he needs to wrap it up.
What's the chances of Sessions surviving after this is wrapped up?
Sessions doing what?
Of Sessions staying as Attorney General once this is over with.
Well, I think it's very good. Sessions, obviously the president's frustrated with Sessions over the investigation, but what lawyers Sessions could do differently. And so, if Sessions can't do anything differently, I kind of get it. And I think on other areas he's doing a bang-up job.
So, why do we not have a stronger investigation on all the other allegations in Washington, such as Hillary Clinton, such as the FBI? I mean, you could go down the list. It seems like those have all been put behind the scenes.
I think there's going to be a good investigation of what's happened with the FBI. That's just kind of getting started. There is somebody looking at that, but again, it just is going to take a little while to get going. And so I think that will happen.
Yesterday, the Louisiana legislature decided that a person on Medicaid, the legislative auditor didn't have the authority to look at his tax returns. Sounded to me like a pretty stupid move. You agree or disagree?
Well, there has to be an audit. There's been a lot of folks enrolled in Medicaid who were not eligible, and that cost the taxpayers a heck of a lot of money. In California, the federal government looked at it and found that a very significant number of Californians were enrolled in Medicaid expansion who were not eligible based on income. And so somebody's got to audit. If it's not the legislative auditor, there better be somebody, because why should somebody work all day, pay taxes, so that somebody else can get benefits for which they are not entitled? It's just not fair.
Dr. Cassidy, always great to have you with us. Look forward to next month.
Thanks, Ted.